Thank you. Please stand for the pledge. Madam Chair, can we have a roll call?
Director McGrean. Director Belfay.
Present.
Secretary Roderick.
Here.
Vice Chair Goodland. Absent.
Excused.
Chairperson, Mr. Anderson.
Here. I'd like to welcome everyone here and online. And looks like we have a special presentation.
We do. Our host tonight, Chris Rowan, was going to give us an update on what's going on here and just kind of their upcoming needs and some of the things we've been working on with them. And by the way, Chris, just thank you very much for being a host for us tonight. And every time we come up here, it looks like there's something new and nice. So just appreciate the welcome and things look good.
Well, thank you, Dan, and thank you, board of PRPD and all the staff of PRPD for coming up. And as we do our once a year visit here from you, we appreciate it very much. And glad that you're here to see the improvements. And I'm going to get into that in the presentation a little bit too, as to, why we did them and how we were able to make that happen. We're really excited. In lieu of the past presentations that I've done for all of you that have had big whiteboards and slideshows and all kinds of things, I do have some flyers just to go through it, just only because it's going to be easier for me to speak extemporaneously. We're really excited about some changes that have been happening internally for us that are going to help the community at large and the entire ridge. So it's a lot easier to explain it than just to show it this time. Hopefully by this time next year, or even in just a few months, we'll be able to, maybe I'll come down to Terry Ash and we'll do a special presentation then for that. One of the things we're really excited about that we've been doing all summer, basically since June, since it's kind of hard to run, an organized activity or something when everybody's on vacation, are Saturday evening concerts. And so this was something that Paradise Rotary started us off with by sponsoring last year. And we got a few bands and it was successful. It was a great dry run. But this time we had 13 Saturday nights total from June to October. And so I'll share. We'll go through each flyer. I'll just share with the board so you can see everything that's going on. That was an original one. We've had to bump 2 bands because of the heat and also the park fire we delayed too. So that's what's pushed us into October. So the last event will be the first Saturday in October. And we've been bringing out anywhere from 150 to 200 people in the community, people coming from Paradise and Chico and Oroville. There's followers of some of these artists that they go anywhere they go. If they go to Marysville, they're going to go to Marysville and check them out too. And sometimes it could be just a duo. And in some other times we have 8 people playing in the band. An entire stage has been produced up there by a gentleman who's on our board who's very passionate about music, and he was very passionate about this project and made it happen. It's Phil Howard, in case you might know of him. He's local up here, lives in Magalia, and we're really thankful for him and all of his work to help make that happen. So that's going on. This is the other big deal. So the disc golf course. I've got a couple of things to report on that. So Jake isn't here tonight. Jake Bates is our disc golf director, is doing a fantastic job out there for us, and working with Scott, getting some new programs here. So we're very appreciative to all of you for that. But one of the things I wanted to mention that on our own, this year we are up both in sales at the pro shop and users of the course by 20%. I was blown away by that at a recent board meeting a couple of months ago because normally we have been stagnant through the summer. It's hot. People don't come. It's just, who wants to play out there in the weeds when it's 110? We're getting people coming from all over now. Sacramento, Redding. I mean, they were coming from there before, but not quite so much. Now we're getting more of it. So as the word travels out there, And they network through an app. They use an app on their phone called UDisc. Some of you might be familiar with it, but UDisc is actually something that all disc golfers, whether you're pro or amateur, allows them to connect with other disc golfers and disc golf courses so they can find out where these courses are, how close they are. So for example, when we go to advertising at Chico State, which we're looking to do soon, we'll be able to let them know, find us on UDisc. They can look us up. They'll see South Pines at Magalia Community Park, and they can come here and they know what the green fee is and they know what the playing procedure is. It's an 18-hole course, 40 acres. The details are there. There's good reviews. It's just a really big deal. And I know the Chamber of Commerce and the Bridge has been so appreciative of it being here. And again, we're really appreciative of Scott and your staff for bringing people up here, including new kids, new users to the course, and working with Jake on that. So thank you for that, and I will pass this map around for you guys. New partnerships was something that we talked about last year when you guys were here, and that was something that we were in the process of pursuing. And one of those that was really big for us, especially as Magalia Community Foundation no longer is getting out campfire money, as we know. In fact, all of the foundations that were getting out campfire money aren't doing that. We're about 6 years out from the fire. We're moving on out of that phase into more of a service phase. And so doing that, North Valley connected us with First Five of Butte County and Anna Bauer. And about a year ago, she came up and had a meeting with us and asked if we would like to serve as the Magalia location for a First Five Family Center. And so we talked about it as a board, and we had some further discussion and felt that it would actually be a win-win for us. We would be receiving funding that would allow us to keep the lights on and the rent paid, and in exchange, we'll be servicing tons of families on the Upper Ridge. So we thought, okay, this is a great opportunity for them, and it also cements our place here. So it's it doesn't make us whole. Quite, we have a lot of different pieces for that, but it does get us there significantly. So one of the first things that they did, the program is not completely put together yet. They're still hiring and training staff that will be here. They will be doing 15 hours a week here at the center. So that's quite a chunk of time. And that's part of the reason why we did the remodel. So if you notice that little corner over there where you came in by the doors used to be this open area with just strewn out stuff. And it's not anymore. It is a formal office. It's what we really needed years ago when we first got here. And we just didn't have the funding to do it or even the need because it was COVID and there wasn't a whole lot happening. And now more things are happening. And so thanks to Melissa Crick, Valley Contractors Exchange, Christian Public Services, and the Red Cross, all teamed up. We got the funding, we got the resources, and we built an office, and we built this closet over here for all the chairs and tables that used to be just thrown in the corner. They're not thrown in the corner anymore. They're hiding in there. We can open the doors and show you sometime if you'd like, but they are in there. Actually, you're sitting at them right now. So one of the first events that we're working with Youth for Change, they're the programmers. They're going to be putting on the First Five program here. And Youth for Change did their first event. It was a trial run and it went great. It was a back to school resource day, and we held that in August, and here's a flyer for it. And that was an opportunity for them to bring their partners up to meet us, the Boys and Girls Club, Butte County Office of Ed, and some folks from Chico Unified School District came. Paradise Unified School District was here, a whole bunch of people. And we were introduced to all of them, and they were giving out free backpacks, free immunizations from public health, all kinds of things, resources that the kids and families needed up here. So I warned them, by the way, that because they didn't think very many people would show at that event. And so they didn't bring very many things. The backpacks were gone within an hour, and the event lasted 4 hours. So now they know for next time that there are a lot of children living up here on this side of the dam.
Do you know how many kids went through that?
I believe if you wanted to say about 350.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And all who are legitimately in need. Legitimately in
Right.
need. Yeah.
Do they have to be from this side of the dam or are they from?
Actually, for this particular event, no.
No?
So I should correct that and say that there were probably some people from Paradise that were here too. But the majority would be Cedarwood and Pine Ridge students for sure. A lot of elementary and some junior high, But when we do the program here, the funding from First Five, there's also a secondary part of that too. Their grant is also from DES. So Department of Social Services at the county allows them to not just work with ages 0 to 5, but also teenagers too. So the program will be 0 to age 17 when the program is implemented. So those 15 hours a week will be for those children, but for the county, that funding is for Magalia only. It's for the Upper Ridge. They want to address the needs of the families up here.
Great.
And so we just said to Anna, we said, we're here, we can do this. There was another potential provider, another potential host, and they declined. And so then it was thrown to us.
Great.
No other place.
Thanks.
So we were happy and very fortunate to be in that position. And here is a preview of the program. That was a great segue. And then we are excited that in addition to First Five, in working with you guys and the Neighbor to Neighbor grant, one event that we're doing is an outdoor movie night. It's something that Dan knows I've been pushing for about 4 years. But I know that funding is tight for all of us, and to make something like that happen, you've got to have all the right equipment and the right timing and everything, and that's all come together now. And so we're really excited about this outdoor movie night. Something I'm excited about as a camp director, because those were the funnest nights that we had at camp. And, you're just movie night under the stars. It's the biggest thing that the kids look forward to at camp all the time. Snacks, kick back, watch a movie that's, 30, 40, 50 feet wide on a screen. It's going to be great. So we're excited for that. The weather would not cooperate in August. As we know, it was raining and 54 degrees. So it probably would not have been, a nice time for the kids. So we bumped it out there. So we're hoping it's going to be actually nicer in September, which is weird because it's a whole month later. But I think it'll be okay. I think they're going to have a good time and it'll be dry. So the movie will be Lilo and Stitch. And Hawaiian themed and all that. It's going to be great. Then the Fall Family Fun Fest. So it's our 3rd annual, working with you guys on that too. And this will also be part of the Neighbor to Neighbor grant this year, although the last 2 years it's been just part of our general partnership agreement that we would do some activities here. But we're looking forward to this. And again, with the bounce houses and the dunk tank and everything else that, Scott, we need to get together, but we got to get nailed down all the plans. In addition to it, my understanding from Jake and Scott is that there's going to be a disc golf tournament for kids too, going on at the same time. So we're going to shut down the course for the day. Jake and Scott will be working together on that end of it, and we'll be doing all the fun games in the center and around the center and up on the lawn. So that's going to be a fun time. We're looking forward to it. And we, again, appreciate your support on that. That's one of the pieces that may help make us whole too, by the way. So that's where we're very appreciative. The last item I wanted to bring up, I just received by email today. So I was in talks, or I should say, the school district was in talks with me about a grant that they were applying for. It's a similar one that you have. It's like the Neighbor to Neighbor grant, but it's community partners in Magalia and Paradise. And I just wanted to read it to you because, as I say, this information was just released to the public today, but we've known about it since December because they were applying for the grant. They needed to wait until they found out, of course, as you guys do when you apply, you need to make sure the money is actually there, it's coming and everything else. Those details have come through. And so now we're finding out. It says PUSD, in collaboration with our grant partners, Youth for Change, Paradise Stronger, Boys and Girls Club, Butte County Behavioral Health, First Five of Butte County, Watershed Media, Butte County Office of Ed, Chico State Ecotherapy, and Magalia Community Center, is committed to serving the needs of our students and families. Through our community schools model and grant funding, we've made significant strides in providing integrated student support, expanded learning time and opportunities, family and community engagement, and collaborative leadership and practices, health and wellness are at the core of our efforts, ensuring students' holistic development and success. We are proud of our impact over the past 5 years. We are motivated to continue and expand and diligently work with all of these service providers available on the Ridge to bring those services to our students and families. So that means in addition to First Five, we'll be working with these partners too, and the school district to provide more things for students and families. So I'm going to be really busy here really soon, but I promise to reserve this space for you guys once a year. So that we can continue the board meetings, unless you, of course, you're welcome to come and check out the kids' activities too anytime. So I will swing this around. And I answered a couple of questions from Mary, but Steve, Robert, Al, you guys have any questions for me?
Well, it sounds like you've had a very active and busy year. Congratulations, Magalia Community Park, folks. I think that's exciting. I do have one question. Though. During this past year, has Magalia Community Park collaborated on more than one occasion with the POA folks and having joint events of any kind during this past year? I'm just curious.
We have. But it's kind of it crossed more in the nature of cross promotion.
Okay.
So, for example, at Easter, we did our own. We've always done an Easter egg hunt here because we have the lawn and we've got the green and everything. But there was one year, I think it was the year before, we did collaborate and we had a carnival where the carnival was here and their a social committee came and helped put some of that on, and then we did the Easter egg hunt. This past year, it worked out better for them because of the type of facility they have to have the carnival up there, and we do the egg hunt here. And especially with the rain that we had for Easter,
Right.
they have a larger facility that they could move the carnival inside. And so it worked out great. So we do, like I said, it's cross promotion. The trunk or treat, of course, that we do in October.
Mhm.
That our 5th annual is coming up now.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's 5. But that's cross promoted with them and with Magalia Plains Baptist Church. They've got a large parking lot, and so there'll be all 3 of us listed on one flyer that'll go out to everybody up here and also to Paradise too.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I must add, you didn't mention the accentuated landscaping with cooperation with Paradise Garden Club and the Magalia beautification team that's going to go on the corner.
Yes. So I don't have all the details on that. That's still, I guess, in progress.
It's in progress, and as soon as the heat simmers down and it's time to plant, then
Right.
we'll be working out there.
And you helped me remember something that I completely forgot because I put flyers for all the major things that I could think of at the last minute. So I apologize for leaving them out. But we have a community garden now. It was funded by the Episcopal Diocese. So Richard Yale was very helpful in us getting the funding for that. But a group of diehard gardeners up here on the Upper Ridge really wanted to get a community garden going. They were looking for a site for it. Richard Yale had been on our board for several years. He turned out, but he's still on our advisory committee. And so he came back and we were looking at different parts of the course that aren't being used for anything, because there's a lot of spaces that, just need, weed abatement and cleaning up, and then we could, make use of it. Well, one site was where a large storage shed that used to be for the course, that was also a maintenance facility for the irrigation. It had burned in the fire, but the site was all cleaned up. It was like it's just prepped and ready to be plowed under and planted. And so we all said yes. We got an MOU drafted up with Butte County Local Food Network. And so we're working with them as the advisors for this garden committee. So they work together on that, and they are already planting. They were planting in the 100-degree heat this summer, zucchini, all kinds of squashes, pumpkins. They wanted to get those ready for October. And if you have the chance to drive by, it's right across, literally from the backside of Pine Ridge Elementary School. So now their secondary goal is to work with the school district. And that's easy because Rich Gingery is on our board, and have some kind of a relationship so the kids can come across the street. There's a crosswalk right there. And, with the team from the garden committee, learn about planting and composting and all kinds of things. So we're really excited about having that. And again, a total brain lapse that I didn't mention it, but I have to say that, we're really proud of that garden and they're working hard on it. It's all fenced in, deer fencing, everything. It's great. And we thank you for being here.
Good
Thank you,
job.
Chris. Yeah,
You
a
bet.
lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sounds like you're gonna be real busy. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
It makes you want to applaud.
It's just been, I just want to say it's been a lot of hard work. It's our board, our volunteers, and especially now coming out of COVID and so many other groups and organizations forming and people peeling off and having 4 or 5 committees that they serve on or 4 or 5 boards. It's tough to get volunteers now. And so I'm very thankful that we have all these programs and services now coming, because that was our original goal when we opened this place, and then COVID hit and we couldn't do anything. But now that we're open, people are calling, people are saying, hey, you guys have a reputation up there. You're doing a great job. Can we use the center for XYZ? And it's just been a blessing. So it's very appreciative, and we're happy to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that brings us to public comment. Anyone here or online have a comment about something that is not on the agenda tonight?
We have 2, I believe.
Okay, well, I'd like to comment on something that is conspicuously not on the agenda. Certain people in the stream appear to have been tipped off that the supervisors intended to shirk their legislative duty and appoint a qualified position to your forthcoming vacancy yesterday. It is noteworthy that this agenda does not contemplate a resolution to make a recommendation to the supervisors as to what direction the district might like to take. So after your last publicly noticed meeting was closely followed by an unnoticed private meeting in the storage closet with the door closed, the district might like to have these discussions in the open air. And if there was an agendized discussion today, then everybody with an axe to grind could do so here in the light of day. Now, I would be happy to sit in the 5th seat with the 4 of you. And if any of you have any reason to think that you might not want to sit alongside me, I would really like to hash that out in advance so that it doesn't get in the way of the district's functioning come December.
Thank you, John.
Can I use this mic?
Do you believe in life after love?
Okay. As you've just heard, this community has come together, and when there isn't outside help, we've managed to figure it out ourselves and continue to advance and produce some amazing programs. I want to thank you for the opportunity to address the board of directors and the staff of PRPD. The past 6 years have been quite a learning experience for me and for my community on the Upper Ridge. We have learned that we are more resilient than we ever imagined. We have learned that we can indeed come together in collaboration and cooperation as a community. We have learned that we can develop a strong public-private partnership between community organizations and government agencies. We've learned to stand together. We've navigated the reefs and shoals of a major disaster, a pandemic, 6 years of constant disruption with debris removal, hazard tree removal, undergrounding, flash fuel growth, destruction of our forest and natural habitat, and the continued chaos of rebuilding. We've encountered barrier after barrier, often put up by well-meaning agencies, and we're learning to overcome those barriers. Magalia has asked for and promised a park for 18 years. Now, I would like to thank the board and staff at PRPD for continuing our education as a community. In the past 5 years, we have been privileged to sit through a number of master classes on gaslighting. We have learned to recognize the language and activities designed to silence a community. We are invited to attend community meeting after community meeting to give input on the design of the park over and over again. We are shown, and we know it's unrealistic based on the funding, really fancy upscale architectural plans. We know there's no money for that. There's a big sign that says coming soon in front of Woods and an empty lot on Lake Ridge. It's been there 2 years. My definition of soon is a bit different. There's another sign that says do not enter right next to it. We are told that we are being unreasonable for not understanding that everything takes a long time. And there isn't adequate funding. However, we are watching the expansion and improvement happening to the Paradise Parks. They seem to have enough funding. It's all about what priorities you as a board set for utilization of staff resources within the organization. PRPD received $5.2 million in state grant funding for Lake Ridge in November of 2021. It's almost November of 2024 and no construction has started. The proposed opening has been pushed out to 2028. We have learned that we will not believe anything until we actually see a park on Lake Ridge. So again, I want to thank you for providing us with this education.
And I feel like what?
Thank you.
You can still
No, please.
speak and fill out a card later.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that the park had been postponed another year. I don't know what you're doing, Dan, or the board. And I don't mean to be nasty, but I am just absolutely fed up. I want to see something before I push in daisies. And keep postponing this and keep postponing it. Coming up with all these excuses is BS. Okay. Second thing I'd like to bring up is I just found out yesterday that you're having Doug Teeter appoint someone for the board for the gal that beat me in the election. There was questions in my mind about how that was handled, but I understand that the vote is probably going to go from somebody else. I didn't hear what you said, John, but I want to say this very strongly, that I don't know of anyone in this city or the town of Magalia who's more knowledgeable about what's going on, who attends all the meetings, and who would work very, very hard for this board. And I would very much like to see him appointed. And if he's not, my instinct would be to have that researched and find out why not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, and that's not an agenda item, but I can provide some information that may help on
Please.
several listings. So first thing on the appointment, there is a process, by the way, that I think Mr. Stonebreaker is aware of, that if there's not a full slate or anyone that applies during the election, it kicks to the Board of Supervisors as a decision. When we have an open seat, typically midterm, we have a process, we have an application, we have interviews, people can speak on that. We were directed from county council. They didn't even ask us for a recommendation. So that was something that is just within the hands of the Board of Supervisors. So there's that's one aspect of the question. Oh, if you contact the county clerk on the elections, there's a set process. If it's a midterm appointment, then it's within our board's purview. If there's the election filing dates have been passed and there's no seat, it is automatically filled by a Board of Supervisors meeting. So it's not within our purview at all. It's a county supervisors. The seats, however, the county board advertises it. That's, I think, and you applied for past elections. It was the same process they used for notification. So anyway, the other item I wanted to address, the 2028 is the close of the contract for Lake Ridge. I know there was a statement made about not adequate funding. $5.2 million is the biggest grant we've ever received. And that biggest grant we've ever received is going to be invested in Magalia. So I think there's a lot of impatience, understandably so, waited a long time, but there's a long time that happens with rural districts like ours. Billy Park took 30 years before there was any improvements. So now it's a lovely park that took 30 years before the first improvements went into place.
You put two more parks down in Paradise.
I'm not sure what parks you're referring to. Those are undeveloped parks. That's actually been there for, both properties have been around for just as long as Lake Ridge has been existing. In fact, Oak Creek has been there probably upwards of 20, 25 years. And by the way, if you want to talk to me after we have a meeting, this is not typical for us to have conversation this way, but I would be happy to answer that. After the meeting, have a discussion on it.
Yeah, because Dan, I'd like to do an update in the nugget too, and what they're looking at now for the park.
Yeah.
And so
And one thing I was going to point out too, we're going to have a field visit October 1st or 3rd. 1st. Yeah.
Please.
And the whole thing, I think this is a good thing to keep in mind. This isn't simply rebuilding like the same sort of rebuilding process as rebuilding a home. This is more akin to what you might need from a subdivision. So there's a lot of process that has to happen, has to have new septic, has to have certain plans from the county. It took us 6 months to bring the county out before they could look at a hole on the ground to see if there's a sufficient septic system out there. So it's a lot more complicated than frankly we thought it would be. But I think what we'll have on the first is kind of a ground truthing of some of the ideas. We've had probably the most input on any project we've had. I think probably more input than a lot of projects that have ever happened on the Ridge up here, schools, county infrastructure. We've had a lot of meetings. I know you guys are meeting now, but I think within the next, this next year, there will be work on the ground. You will see progress. Actually, can you use the microphone?
Can you please use
The microphone.
I just want to finish up. Okay, now.
I'm sorry. You turned the button.
Now online can hear you.
Oh, cool. I just want to finish up by saying that though it's been 30 years that Billy Park has been waiting for their upgrades, Magalia's been waiting 50 for a park. Okay. We're not in line for upgrades because we don't even have a park to
Yeah,
upgrade.
actually, I'm not referring to upgrades. I'm referring to the first infrastructure that went in at Billy Park.
Yeah, we're still, yeah. And Paradise has a number of parks. We have none. We have none. We've got the park up there that was what was it? The archery, and that was limited to who could go to it. And now it's even closed because nothing's been cleaned up after the campfire. So it's not even usable. So we're sitting here still 4 years without a park for our kids and our families. So that's all I have to say.
I know it's yet another meeting, but October 1st, we'll devote our time.
Do I just push
Just
do you
to-
want me to turn this
Yeah,
off?
please. Thank you. So mark your calendars. Come see us October 1st on the site. Do you know the time? 10 to 12, 10 to noon. And then we were hoping to have lunch over here. No, it'll be out on site. We want to have it out on site. Yeah. Kind of ground truth it. Thank you.
I'd like to add that this board wants Lake Ridge done. That's our priority.
You guys got a lot of money for the government.
Yeah, you can sit, you can sit. We'll bring it to you.
After the fire, gentlemen, and ladies, excuse me. There was a lot of money put to your organization. Matter of fact, I approached the board, what's been about 5 years now. I came down and told you, look, you know, it's great what you've done in Paradise, but you haven't done anything for the rest of your district. You've got a district you're responsible for. I haven't seen you do anything that even remotely resembles that. I understand you got about $60 million you stuck back for future payments in case you didn't bring in all the funding that you thought you should. How about using some of that money and getting this project off the ground? This is ridiculous what we've put up with. What we've heard, the gaslighting we've been getting, it's really a lot, folks. You've got people up here, we're doing this because we like our community. We want to help our community. We're not doing it to harass you guys. We want something that's here for the people. We've got a ton of kids up here, don't have any place to go. Let's straighten this up. You've got the capability to reach into your bank account and fund the whole damn project. So let's do it. Let's stop this. I don't want to hear any more excuses or why I can't do it or anything. I have yet to hear anybody tell me why they can do it. It's not a positive process. So I ask your indulgence, folks. I'm sorry. I know it sounds like I'm kind of crying and griping and stuff, but this is ridiculous. So thank you very much for your time.
Sir, what's your name?
Thank you. And hopefully we're all going to learn more on October 1st.
October 1st and updates really quickly after that. So there'll be progress reports on a regular basis after October 1st.
And is it going to be able to be built where it can be utilized, parts of it can be utilized while the construction of the rest is going on?
Yeah, that is a good question. I think because the nature of how the infrastructure is going to go in, it's going to make for us having a faster process if the site is closed and we're able to complete it. But I think once we get to that starting line, when we're sitting in this room next year, I think we'll have different news, different levels of enthusiasm for the park. We hear you guys about that. That was a priority for us for Magalia. It isn't trivial that we're able to bring that $5.2 million to grant to this community. You haven't seen it on the ground yet, but it's been in the planning phase. And so shortly we'll be able to have some information out on site and then some work kicking off in 2025.
Is there any more public comment online? No? Well, that brings us to the consent agenda.
I'd like to pull 3.1.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item 3.1.
I'll second that motion.
Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call?
Director Alma Green,
Aye.
Director Mary Belfay,
Aye.
Secretary Steve Roderick,
Aye.
Vice Chair absent, Chairperson Robert Anderson.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. So, Ms. Hoffman pulled 3.1 because she had some corrections. I have printed the corrections. They are minor verbiage. Sorry. The changes under items pulled from consent, the motion should state approve the regular meeting minutes and the words approve the being the noted change. They were sorry, I had it at the office. Oh, thank you. 3.1 and 3.4. Approve the regular meeting. That was the part that was changed, the motion. The other one is in the packet of what it said before. So I'm sorry.
So just in summary, it was just on item 3.4 and 3.1 and 3.4 lacked an action verb. So it simply added approve is inserted before the words regular meeting on the motion. So there's an action verb in there. That's a very minor change.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes of the August 14th meeting with that correction, approve the action verb and the motion action on items 3.1 and 3.4.
I'll second.
We'll get a roll call vote.
Director Almgren.
Aye.
Director Mary Buffet.
Aye.
Secretary Steve Roderick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Goodland is not here. Chairperson Robert Anderson.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes for 3.1.
That brings us to committee reports. Finance Committee?
Yes, Mr. Chair, on the Finance Committee, which consists of board members, myself and Roderick, we met on September the 3rd. Just two items we addressed. One was a request from the organization known as Patch. Request that will eventually be scheduled to the full board. So we looked at that as a committee and we came up with a recommended action that will, it's my understanding, be agendized for the board at their next regular meeting in October, I believe. And the other one on the agenda was a very minor couple of sheets and a manual that's being prepared by our district accountant, Catherine Merrifield, and she just wanted input from the committee on that, and we addressed that, and that's pretty much what we did on the 3rd. I can't think of any.
Covered it all.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? No old business. That brings us to new business. Moore Road Park and Noble Park easements. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just noticed tonight, it should have been included in the packet, but there's a good easement report that was omitted. So I'm going to run through that. Scott will put it up on the screen. Scott, it's it's not the district report. It's a Noble Park easement that you had up earlier. Anyway, I'm going to run through it. The annotation in there is spot on to what it should be, but let me give you a little bit more of a background. So starting in 2022, PG&E had approached the district about two easements, one on Pence along Noble Park, the undeveloped property there, and the other at Moore Road on the developed property over there. So there's a couple of, we went through seemed like an inordinate amount of field visits and going back and forth. There were a lot of discussions out in the field. We were quite concerned at Noble, even though it's not developed right now. Scott, it's not that. It says 6.1. It's item 6.1. Just straight 6.1. You had it up earlier. I just thought it'd be helpful if it's up on that screen to see it. So anyway, for folks in the audience, especially, we had a lot of time going through that site. You can drop down to the background part, Scott. But one of their, it was very intrusive. So it was along the entire western flank of Noble Park. If that's going to be developed in the future, we want access for roads. We want access there for regrading. The site's likely to be regraded to allow for some uses out there. And it just was very intrusive. They also had some peculiar language in the easement language. It wasn't just defining the area, but if it was in their opinion, any trees or infrastructure was in the way, they would have in their opinion, have the right to remove it. And so that seemed overly broad. And we want to make sure that if there were changes in state or federal law, that they would come back and, redo the easement or take a look at it that way. They decided later that year to put it on hold. And then earlier this year, they decided to restart that effort with some urgency. They were able to reduce the footprint. So on the Noble Park property, it's the easement is only associated with 3 above ground boxes. So kind of some pull out areas where they have it. We also had some conditions that we indicated. We want to make sure that if there's ease of maintenance for us, that would be mowable with equipment rather than weed eated around. So have a request that they put in a padded surface around, or not padded, but a crushed basalt or some sort of border around it to make it easier for us to get equipment around and not impact or damage their equipment. So a few easements went that way.
Can I ask for clarification about something?
Yeah.
You were talking about Noble, and then you said 3 different spots.
Right.
Isn't that on Moore Road?
No, Noble, it went from a 10-foot wide easement across the whole western flank.
Right.
To now it is only 3 discrete locations. So they've changed that. Most of the line will be in the road right of way. So we have just a couple of places where there'll be boxes.
So it just shows one location along Pence Road. So we're not even coming up with 3, Dan.
Is this the wrong map?
Exhibit just shows an area that's 20 feet by 68 feet along Pence Road down in the southwestern corner of the Noble Park property that's
Page
undeveloped.
35 and 37.
Right.
That is correct. It has been reduced. So I'm thinking back to an earlier iteration where they had, they're only asking for the 1. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so then my question regarding that, there is already a kind of an entry gate there. Is
Correct.
that where this easement
It's
is
south of
located?
it. So it's south of it. And it's an area the site has, we feel, and thanks for correcting me on that, but this has gone through so many iterations that I left it at the original 3. So it is on the southernmost boundary. It's a location that's slightly lower. It won't have as much aesthetic or impacts to our road or connections to the park. So I think it's a much better location than the 3 previously, and then the 10-foot one altogether. So I think it's agreeable to us from an operations location standpoint, future park design.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moore Road, a similar process. They wanted to have a larger area. Currently, there is a easement that is above ground easement on the east side of the road. But they're looking for kind of simplifying it for the western, putting on the western side of Moore Road. And that is the three areas that they talked about there. These are, one thing that's curious to me is some of the easements have those percentage rate adjustment to it. And I think that has to do with the usability of those areas. The other thing that I wanted to point out, these locations appear to be pretty good. And Mark's been out there several times with them to make sure that they line up. We have some new alignments that's probably going to occur with our parking lots. So we wanted to make sure that they wouldn't interfere with that it had a proper retaining wall around them and kind of, well protected. So there's going to be some bollards installed that weren't part of their typical installation that we'd like to make a condition.
Can you clarify?
Yeah.
Make sure the audience is with me when you switch back and forth from one property to the next.
We're talking more road.
Yeah, thank you.
Because so many people park on that road, we felt like having some bollards in place would help protect their infrastructure and keep people from damaging their vehicles and so forth. The location seemed more straightforward and agreeable on Moore Road. We had requested, and they seem agreeable to it. Originally, they were going to replace only 4 feet of the road width. And we had talked to them about the potential of repaving 12 feet, which is the road width right now. So they seem agreeable to it, but there's a time sensitivity to it. So that's part of their conditions on allowing it.
Just a quick question. I see the portion adjacent to the Moore Road Park. Will they also be repaving the stretch of road adjacent to Cal Fire? Because that's just as bad as.
It is. It's not our property.
I know. I realize that.
So it's something that we've mentioned to the town. In fact, we mentioned to the town yesterday at a meeting. And so that was something that I think makes a lot of sense for them to take it as a single project, but it's not our easement. It's not our property. So, well, hopefully that will get rectified. This has gone through the lawyers, quite a few, our former lawyer and our current lawyer. So the last set of changes, PG&E worked through pretty quickly. It seemed agreeable to our attorney. She didn't have it. It seemed that they revised as requested our changes. So we have the kind of 4-part recommendation there. And we can consider these, by the way, together or separate. So if the board so chooses, we can separate out the Moore Road easement from the Noble Park. They do not have to go together, but they can be taken together.
So when we have one of these wonderful green boxes at the top of our property, and we had to give them a bigger easement than they already had, but they gave us money for it. So we weren't too upset, but that included the underground for the utility, just the cabling, not the conduit. So will this do the same thing if there's any of that needed in either of these areas?
Yeah. So great question. Originally they were going to on Noble Park. I'm talking about, they were going to trench along the entire western boundary of Noble, and then have the 3 boxes in place. They revised it, frankly, because we were quite concerned about the elevations changing out there and impacting us in a basically taking of public property and us not getting a lot of value back. So they went back to the drawing board and they redrew it. So most of the undergrounding part is going to be within the street, within the town right of way for the road. And then it will zigzag out to the box where they have to have areas and access to it, and then drop back in. So the areas where the cable crosses the property, goes to the box, and then exits, that's the easement area. I thought there might be, but I do not see him tonight.
Oh, that's
and Scott, I don't know if he's online. And it'd be Eddie. He was notified, and I thought he was going to attend.
Sorry if I may. I think the background information that's proven with your staff report, the easement documents, as well as the agreement documents and so forth. I tried to read this very carefully, and to answer Mary's question, I think the easements are, if we grant it, is structured in such a way that allows other utilities along Mill Road to enter and put their lines with PG&Es, if I read that correctly, at a later date perhaps, or in conjunction with them. That's in the easement language that hopefully our district legal counsels review. But one thing I did not see, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, the condition that you negotiated on behalf of the district for repaving more road and everything, I don't see that in the actual easement documents or the easement agreement. Do we legally require the PG&E to do that?
I think we can make our approval tonight if the board so chooses to make it a conditional approval on that. I can see some reluctance if it's a one-time thing. They don't want to build in something about, hey, we're going to repave the road. It's just a one-time exchange. So that would be a condition that we can write up to them, and have it written out in such a way. It's part of, I would say, it's kind of the deal making on this. We can have restrictions that are built in there. For example, I think anything that's tied in with the infrastructure, the chip basalt or decomposed granite DG around the facilities, we can probably dictate that in the easement. But I think the paving is a one-time thing, and they're not going to want to clutter up the easement with a kind of a one-time deal on it.
Okay, so that's basically what you're trying to recommend that we consider tonight, is that we actually take, if we have to approve this, we want us to incorporate that condition to do the road reconstruction for the 12 feet and all the related improvements, right?
And then I can work with our attorney to make that
Yeah.
condition.
And I think that language you provided in the agenda itself as potential action items. Okay. That helps a lot to me. Thank you.
Sure.
I realize that from Warren Road to where our pavement's going to start is it 12 foot, but why don't we go a little wider?
Yeah, that's they would go with only what was there existing beforehand. All of those roads should be wider. Every single road that is in Paradise that is private road, 12 feet is actually generous on some of those private roads, but it really should be wider. But that's what the existing condition is. It's 12 feet. They would go to 12 feet.
It sounds like a great idea, Director Robert Anderson, but the contract has something to do with the contract that the town had with PG&E, and they will only replace what was there. And it's probably the same up here. They'll repave what was there. So,
but no upgrades.
no,
essentially.
no upgrades. And you don't know until the machine shows up if you're going to get a asphalt chip seal, or you're going to get a grinder that's going to grind the whole thing up and give you a whole 3 inches of asphalt. I learned that yesterday at the meeting. So when they show up, then you'll know. Which, yeah.
I think one thing that was convincing for them too is I had actually just before the fire some pictures of Moore Road, because we were planning on doing some improvements there. And it was, in comparison to what it is today, it was in poor condition. Now it's in terrible condition. So, and yeah, it was much better than it is today. So I think that helped kind of sweeten that need for them.
So now let's just momentarily talk about the Pence Road situation. The easement they're asking for a 20-foot by 68-foot rectangular area, basically, to the embodiment easement. They show them at 1,357 square feet. It actually pencils out to 1,360 square feet. Not going to quibble over 3 square feet.
I'm sorry, which page are you on?
It's 35 in the staff report. Rather. Page 35, you see where they show 1,357 square feet. When you do the math, it's really 1,360. That's a minor point. Doesn't really matter to me, but, and then, they gave it a value per square foot of 75 cents and they're willing to pay us a compensation of 95% of that value per square foot. Is that correct? How did they come up with that? Just for our edification.
Yeah, I think what it has to do with how much impediment that they have on the surface. So they're not occupying that whole space. If you're going to use it for open space or, you know, running around purposes, their infrastructure occupies a fraction of that. So I think it would be quote unquote usable. And I think that's something that we can ask on that, on their formulation there. It has everything to do with, that it's not a complete taking. It's not going to be something that's fenced around and 100% it's their facility.
Okay, so it's not complete taking. Now let's move over to Mill Road. Page 11 of the agenda material. Similar situation. I'm just curious. Of course, on Mill Road, we're asking for a permanent easement for 3 different areas, you know, with different dimensions and so forth. I have no problem with that. That all penciled out mathematically. They assigned a value for all 3 areas of about 40 cents a square foot. And I guess they based that on an appraisal that was done by an appraiser. Is that correct?
Correct.
On comparable sales and so forth. I have no problem with that. What I don't understand is how they come up with for strip number 1, which is the bigger of the 3, 25% rate.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the location is on a steep embankment.
Is it really on the?
Yeah,
on
so
the west side of Moore Road?
It's actually the east side of Moore Road.
Oh, this is
So
the east side?
Yeah, so it's along the Moore Road itself. So along the backstop side of things.
That's the west side.
This is the west.
I'm sorry.
This is the
Let's
west.
put it this way: west side of Moore Road, east side of Moore Road Park.
Thank you. Yeah, so I had it right correctly. It's on the west side. So where's this bank as you're talking
Yeah,
about?
so as you're going up from the dog park
Okay,
area, there's an embankment.
Where the old playground
Yeah, not
is,
quite that
because there's
far.
a slope there.
Right. So
okay, but that's not continuous all the way down through the entire
No,
area that they
it's not.
want.
And I think that's why they had the flatter areas had more value than the areas that were, it'd be hard to do any use there because it is a fairly steep slope.
So we're not looking at much compensation monetarily, but
Not at all.
the bigger one, then if we get it, is the rebuild of the road.
And I think, I wish the representative was here tonight because those percentages and the rates are arbitrary. So why 25% on that versus some of these are 95%, but certainly that flat spot in there, especially where they're looking at, is a parking spot that has value to us. So I think that could be something that we, with if the board chooses, I could bring back to them.
And I just like to add, we got to look at even the bigger picture. We're undergrounding lines, and this is what we want to do.
And I think that's in the report. It does say, there is a very compelling underground our grid. There's a safety. There is more reliability. It's definitely something that we support. It's better aesthetics, so a whole bunch of things that help the community. And so I think there is, we would be helpful on this, but we certainly don't want to have a needless taking of public property.
Right. It's unfortunate PG&E didn't have a representative here tonight because I'm curious. I'm sure our audience is curious too. And a question was posed earlier about another board member. Are they negotiating as we speak with the southerly property owner from our Moore Road property, which is the state of California that also has abutting property along the road for purposes of our undergrounding the PG&E line, but we just don't know that to this point in time. I will ask you this, Dan, since your negotiations was really time consuming, a lot of staff time was spent with them on and off several times throughout this 2-year period. Did they tell you what will happen with the already above ground existing lines? Will they be removed in a timely manner, assuming they're successful with the undergrounding?
What do you call a timely manner?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question because I know that's not happening very well. Timely in a lot of areas that were affected by the campfire, not just in Paradise, but also up here too. So I don't know how that's working out, but I'm just curious. Did you have that dialogue?
No, because that's not on our property. And so I know that the town had some comments yesterday about that. They were going to remove those
Yeah.
over the next few years to have those as they get removed out. But some of those lines, as they pointed out yesterday. Excuse me? I'm sorry. And Mr. Chair, folks may know this, but there's a moment for public comment after the discussion. So, yeah. So anyway, that they're looking at some of the infrastructure that's up in the lines, the cable, the telephone wires. As those come down, they'll remove the poles, but that's on a town.
Well, and as I corner the guys in the trucks, once PG&E's lines are down, their poles aren't, it's now Comcast and Xfinity's issue. And so that's another third and fourth party that probably we have to deal with regard to the remaining poles.
Can I share information that we learned yesterday at the liaison committee? Because I asked that question, when are the poles coming down? And apparently there has been some agreement between AT&T and PG&E will take down the poles, but they want to wait until, and I don't know if that is the same up here or not, but it seems like it would be. They want to wait until there's big areas of everything is done so that they can come in. And I mean, Mark Maddox kind of led to believe if everything was done in 2 days, they could come have all the poles out, whether or not that's reality. But anyway, that was what was reported yesterday.
Is there any public comment?
Yeah. Listening to all this about.
Okay. Listening to all this discussion about Moore Park and Noble Park makes me wonder about Lake Ridge Park. And are you talking to PG&E about what's happening there? I mean, certainly there'll be some electrical things happening. And are you anticipating anything now that you're dealing with these other two parks for the park up here? That's my question.
Yeah, there is underground utilities there. That's part of the things on the investigation, trying to find out if there's adequate metering needs for the park. Yeah, I just want to remind you that we're kind of focused on these two items. I would be happy to talk to you about it afterward, but.
Okay. Is PG&E coming to the October 1st?
I don't know.
Up here?
Yeah.
They've been invited?
We can invite them. I mean, that's a great idea.
Thanks.
Was not present at the liaison meeting. I had another obligation yesterday, but to answer Dr. McGuigan's question, the smaller easements at the Moore Road facility are for above ground, and the larger strip is for only underground. So PG&E is considering it to be less of an encumbrance, where they're going to have underground cables as opposed to where they're having above ground infrastructure, so that we, the public, will have more use of that stretch along the side of the road. And therefore, they're giving us only 25% of the assessed value, as opposed to 95% where their above ground infrastructure is going to obstruct the use from the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I also belong to a Magalia PG&E Alliance group, and we've got two PG&E folks up here, Amanda and Eddie, and we can invite them on October 2nd since this is their area, and they could probably better answer any questions anybody has about what's going on Lake Ridge.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
That'd be great. Thank
Okay,
you.
so we'll invite them.
Thank you.
Turn the button off.
Can we get a motion?
I'd like to take these separately. So I'm going to make a motion that the board authorize the district manager to complete the easement transaction and related documentation for the Noble Park property as it relates to the permanent easement that PG is requesting, which is just a singular area of 20 feet by 68 feet, and subject to final approval contingent upon the satisfactory review by our district legal counsel. It's my motion for this property.
I'll second that motion.
Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Director Alan Green, Director Mary Belfay,
Aye.
Secretary Steve Roderick,
Aye.
Vice Chair Goodland is gone, Chairperson Robert Anderson.
Aye.
And that's 4 ayes for the Noble easement decision.
Yes.
Two, which is the property. Mr. Chair, I move that the board authorize the district manager to complete the easement transaction and right of agreement, I think it's called. That is the other documentation. I'm saying, yeah, excuse me, not an entry. Back up. I move that the board authorize the district manager to complete the easement transaction and other documentation for a main road, subject to final approval contingent upon a satisfactory review by the district legal counsel, and with the applicant entirely and appropriate legal costs into that project as reported this evening. And that the district will receive fair compensation for these matters. And that will reflect those conditions before finalizing the transaction.
I'll second.
Madam Clerk?
All right, Director Alan Green, Director Mary Belfay,
Aye.
Secretary Steve Roderick, aye. Jen Goodland, Vice Chair is absent. Chairperson Robert Anderson.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes for the Moore Road agreement.
And that brings us to the district report. Dan?
Right before the district report is the long missing report that I mentioned earlier on page 58, if folks wanted to see. It is out of order, but our district report starts on page 84. And what I wanted to do is perhaps have one of our rec staff, I know Jeff is on the line, to go over our kickoff event for Neighbor to Neighbor and a lot of other things that are happening with our rec program first. Okay.
Jeff, can you go ahead and give us a account, please? Can't hear you, Jeff. So see what's going on there. Yeah, it's not looking good for Jeff.
Perhaps you can cover the rec report tonight, Scott.
Channeling Jeff. Here we go.
And everyone remind Scott to turn on the button.
Check, check. I like this angle. It's good angle. Hey, Tony, it's so good to see you. Can we hug after? Yeah, it's good to see you, buddy. We'll kick it off with our kickoff. We just had the Networking Neighborhoods Grant program kickoff this last weekend at Billy Park. Well attended at almost 400 participants. There were folks there from all over the place, including the grantee organization from Sacramento. They sent up two of their essentially the bigwigs that gave the only special district $750,000. It was magical. It was a beautiful day at Billy Park, and my daughters were there for 4 hours and stayed entertained the entire time. Some of the other highlights, there were almost 20 community partners there, some of which had quality things to say afterwards about connecting with the other partners. One of the things that Chris and I were talking about before this, we had a representative from the Elements programs there. And from that day, she has 4 signups. That's a program for 16 to 26-year-olds, which is an age group that is oddly left behind, right? We have stuff for tiny children, middle-aged children, and high schoolers, but 16 to 26-year-olds, they get gapped out. So it was really good to hear reports from that. Thank you, of course, directors, for being there. We love to see you all out, and you're a bright shining light on those days. One of the things that this program is meant to do is to connect neighbors. So if you're out and about and you see anyone wearing a Paradise and or Magalia and or a bracelet just like this, you might ask them what their name is, and you might introduce yourself as part of the Networking Neighborhoods Initiative. We had buckets of these out, and I think we handed out, that's how we got our count for the day, around 350 of these to folks that were then asked to then go introduce themselves to someone else. And then that's how we get the whole thing paid for, is we have folks sign up. They come and they introduce each other. We take pictures of it, prove it. The metrics are good. And we're going to keep it going for the next year and a half. We have we have a lot of money to invest. So we're really excited to continue doing that. Not currently taking public comment. Thank you. Part of that initiative is that it will also support some of the current things we have going on, as well as the next quarter of partner events, of which I believe Chris mentioned during his report. We have the Fall Family Fun Fest coming up. I saw a lot of your friendly faces there. We might have danced together, Tony, at that one last time, buddy. That's right. No rug, uncut, my man. That's right. That's coming up, as well as the Magalia Community Park movie night. Dan, I'm going to jump into programs a little bit here.
Sure.
Cool. All right. For the programs, we have the Ridge Hiking Association, which is a partnership with Paradise Stronger. They host a monthly hike. This last month, they had an overnight hike at the South Yuba Trail in the Tahoe National Forest. So one of our goals is to continue taking folks from the area and having them recreate outside of the area by using some of our resources, such as our vans. We have 2 10-passenger vans. They got them out there and back safely. Aquatics. While the Concal pool has been closed since August 10th, the Paradise pool has been open with a modified schedule. And this is a little bit tardy. We've actually had some issues with the pump now, and it looks like, Mark, can I get a thumbs up? Yeah, the pump is getting worked on, and we're doing the best we can. It's a refurbished pump, so we're working on that. That should send quite a few more folks up to the POA pool for the very successful aquatics. Nope, we're getting, like I said, closed. So aqua aerobics next year, folks. Adult health and fitness. PRPD has several year-round health fitness classes that will continue in the fall. Aqua aerobics, of course, pausing on that. Tai Chi, yoga, chair yoga, jiu-jitsu, and dance fusion. We've had a massively successful canning class, folks, that has been sold out the last 3 times that has been held by Heidi Lang. And I didn't know this, but if you don't know how to can your food correctly, you get botulism. So everyone learn how to can their food. That's right. Another shining star at Paradise Rec and Parks District is our volunteer program, which the Networking Neighborhoods program integrates with, especially with our contacts down at Chico State. So a lot of what you're going to see through the stewardship in the volunteer program are climate action days. We had the Butte County Climate Action Day, the ball field blowout, the Crane Memorial Park work, the Love Paradise event, which is throughout the whole ridge. And then we've also done volunteer appreciations and incentives, and we bring those up here as well. I'll get to that here in just a second. I really wish Sophia was here to give you a piece of her heart. She is a gem. We're so fortunate to have her. And I hope at a later date, you get to meet this dynamic, incredible human that we're really blessed to have. The programs that I oversee over the past month, it has been a incredibly busy month to the point where I didn't even make it to my obligation to fill in the report. So ad-libbing on here, or looking at my calendar and looking at the things we did the last month. We had guitar camp, which was sold out at 15 participants down at the Terry Ash Center. That concluded our expanded camp options for this year. Last year, we hosted a total of 3 camps for 60 participants. This year, we hosted a total of 12 camps for almost 350 participants. So we're working hard. Another thing that's expanded greatly this year is our presence at Paradise Lake. We ran 6 astronomy at the lake events. Some very goofy, bearded, I might be handsome, whatever. So we've got a really good astronomy instructor. Totaling 350 participants. That's right up at the lake in Magalia. So we'd love to see you all up there. And as soon as the laser comes out, everyone's having fun. We also do a bonfire component of that, where I bring a gas powered. It's not gas powered. What is it, Tony? Propane. Thank you. A propane kit out, and we sing songs as a community. Would love to have your voice. I know you got a voice, Tony. Other things that we're doing up at Paradise Lake, Chris mentioned this, and thanks again, Chris, for mentioning that we're doing a lot with the Butte County schools, specifically the Butte County Community School down in Paradise and the Mesa Vista School out in Orville. They're continuing education schools, and we try and bring them up to the disc golf course once a semester. That will total 12 trips up here so far this year, with another 6 scheduled this semester. So we really do like coming up to Magalia Community Park, and we're really thankful to have Jake Bates. Shout out to Jake for just being so accommodating always. Yeah, well, he's got a good job, right? Another thing that I wanted to mention is we've increased our presence at Paradise Lake over the weekends this year. One of the things we were looking to do was to place a person out there with a big personality and have that person become the liaison to ensure that we're getting parking paid for, that everyone's making sure they pick up their trash. And because we did all the work on the ramp last year, we want to help them back in and out so they don't tear up the ramp. With that, we've learned a lot about how many folks use the lake and do or don't pay for that, right? And what we've also learned is that the presence up there is very welcomed, that that it's appreciated to have a steward up there to enforce things that may be common sense. And thus the lake has been quite a bit cleaner, and along with the maintenance crew, the porta potties are pristine. I think the last thing that I would like to mention is that while we're recruiting for the Elements program, you could all be of great assistance to that. That's another $350,000 grant. And we've had a hard time getting students between the ages of 16 and 26. So it's going to be a concerted effort in our strategic plan to get in with the high schools. So if you all have connections there, we're really looking forward to that. I'll leave some flyers behind. And then the last thing that I think is interesting, we've been contacted by several of the charter schools in the area to provide menu-based field trip options. And one of the things that we're noticing, and that we're going to work with the Boys and Girls Club with, we're currently working with them, is that a lot of students didn't leave the house this summer because they didn't leave the house. It was so hot that students just got behind their video games, and that's where a lot of our students were. So as much as our camps were quite a bit more filled than last year, they still had we weren't at capacity. So we're working with the local charter schools as well as Achieve Charter School, who pioneered the esports program. We're going to have an esports program rollout that hopefully what we can do is get the students that were behind their TVs out from behind their TVs to start engaging in some of the other amazing things that we're providing. So if anybody here likes video games, come talk to us. And if definitely send your husband. Dan, did I miss anything?
No, that raises a good question though, but we want to have a lot of ideas. Some of these take off, some of them don't. And so we've been doing a lot of what I call R&D on things that we offer. We did a drone camp a couple of years ago. We had only 2 participants.
Oh yeah, I see.
But what happens is that grows. And then the folks that, like Scott mentions, it could be a at home, boy, I'll date myself, Game Boy, Atari or something. They're playing Pong at home, these kids today. But what is great is they went out, they did some drone flights, they got some video, and then they learned how to edit it, and they presented it to their family. It was kind of magical to see how that transformation. So we are doing this R&D. If you have ideas or instructors, let us know. Scott, you were going to add something too.
Well, I was going to cut you off, but I've just learned not to do that anymore. So yeah, that's great. It's really neat to be a part of the growth. I mean, my career at PRPD will be a growth-based career. So thanks for the support, everybody.
I do have a question. You were just talking about the drone camp, which was for kids, and they did an amazing presentation. It was so fun to watch. And the company that leased you the drones, they had a list of job opportunities you can do by being a drone operator. I was dumbfounded at how many things they use drones. Sure. But so could they do what about a drone? What about a drone class or that game class for adults?
Well, specific to drones up here, the first initiative that we've got with Chris is we're going to fly each hole as if it's a disc view with the drone.
Wow.
I'm just going to let it sit in for a second. Everybody close your eyes. You see it? Okay. We had the drone students fly that. To be clear, anything that we want to open for an adult age group is going to need an instructor. So that's really the way to help me do my job best is if you bring someone to me that has the knowledge, then I can help them become an instructor. And then of course that leverages everything from there. Yeah.
That's where actually I was going to go with the drone camp stuff. Is that a couple of years ago, we had the Pinewood Derby, strictly for kids, decades and decades long event, but we had an adult version of it and people seem to be excited about it. So I think there's a lot of things that may be intended for a certain age group that we want to open it up to. Yeah. We won't have the adults compete with the 5-year-olds on the Pinewood Derby, but they can be in their own class.
That's right. Please, Tony.
Yeah, let me address that. One of the fantastic things about this neighbor to neighbor program is we're able to provide free programming. And so this next quarter, let this sink in. We have 60 events throughout the district, 60 events that are free for people to participate in. We're trying to get more partners on it. The items that Chris mentioned, that's being subsidized by this neighbor to neighbor grant in partnership with us to bring some things here and help fortify that and get people out. The neat stuff, and Christy can speak to this a little bit more, but we have people that are going to offer art classes, that are going to offer walks, hikes outside, things of all. A lot of volunteer days are associated with it, so kind of service learning, but we're trying to insert some fun to it as well. So there's a lot of stuff. If you look on our webpage, the Neighbor to Neighbor grant, get some more information out, but we're going to try and push out some of those events through our activity guide and social media postings. Scott, you want to add something to that?
Yeah. Tony, I went to a financial sustainability training in Sacramento about 4 months ago. And there was a lot of folks in that room that we're given the message that parks and recs districts across the nation are staring at a kind of a bleak picture. There's a couple organizations in there that were pointed nose down. Like they're like, yeah, this could be our last month, right? And so what I learned there is the need to communicate a high standard of value transfer, as in master's degree, highly educated, traveled the world. This class is going to cost you $7 versus a different person teaching it. It may not have the same flow, same results, same feel in general. And essentially what I'm saying is that we're in the process of right now of looking at every penny that goes in and out for each of the recreation departments, because we're at that stage where we need to justify high value excursions. Man, we'd love to take you to Lassen. We should go to Lassen, Tony. It's going to cost you $7. Is that cool? Great. Yeah. So that's the model we're looking at. And that also takes into account the number of people served and this really cool metric called experience hours. And you might hear me saying that over and over. It's an industry standard that can clearly delineate value based on the number of people, the amount of time they were there, and then how much it cost us or the organization to put it on. So we'll have a sweet metric for this only took a little bit of investment and brought all of these hours. To that end, we've got scholarships. I got your back. Yeah. Yes, sir.
What?
You have to, because there's people online.
All right. Since we're discussing future plans and things like that, I was wondering two things. First off, you've got Paradise Lake that you guys are pretty much in control of right now, other than just doing programs there. Have you thought about maybe expanding that to a point where you're doing canoeing and things like that, like they do down at okay. And then one more.
It's like Magalia.
Paradise Lake, huh?
They kayak there already.
It's a different deal. Anyway, the other one was PG&E is looking to get away from their property up here. They want to get away from the Sabla Lake, and they have a whole structure back behind that thing. I bet you guys could make a fairly decent deal with them and have a camp set up, where you could do things on a longer term basis. So just something for you to think about.
As half of our esteemed aquatics program up here, Mr. FSF is also a nationally certified kayaking instructor. So we lean pretty hard into the kayaks, mainly because that's what the clientele ask for. The difference between a canoe and a kayak is wet and fun. And what we've also noted is, like Dan mentioned, we've been doing a lot of R&D. We've also noticed that the lake in general is just really well suited for kayaking. I think I just want you to come out and check it out yourself from that point. It's kayaking is the way to go out there. Windsurfing, eventually, maybe no. Too slow for you, Tony? Yeah. Dan.
Yeah. That's a whole other issue that we're gonna have to work out with PID, and it's gonna be several years. I guess, Scott, it's been 2 years since we've offered rentals out there. And so we do it by session, which is kind of weird, but you have to check in with us, reserve it for a date, and then we'll have someone out there. When we had an open kind of open hours, it would be so hit and miss. So some days we'd have a bunch of people out and some days we'd have nobody. So we do these sessions. If we have more demand, that kind of will add more sessions. And one thing that we did, we felt really, I don't know, some urgency on getting equipment out there. Our initial set of equipment was pretty terrible because it was secondhand. It was stuff, they were discards. So there's stuff that people didn't want. And so I think in the next couple of years, we're going to upgrade what we have and probably have some more options. So if you want to go out there with a single paddle on a craft. We'll probably have some options out over the next couple of years, but right now it's really limited what we have. And probably, if we're buying it from scratch brand new, we buy different equipment than what we have. Yeah.
Before the fire, people used to take their own kayaks out there. Is that still a?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, if you guys go out to boat ramp too, it is hugely improved from what it was before. So if you went there in the past, when PID had it, it was kind of, it was tough to get in there. It's gravel down to the water. It's more defined. So people are able to not get stuck out there. And so it's much more improved experience. Easier to put your boat on the water than it was before too. So yeah, we welcome those boats out there. Thank you, Scott. I was going to mention something about volunteer program, and I was going to have Mark give us an update on the work that our maintenance crew is doing. But on our volunteer program, by the way, I was going to point out to board members that if you need some quick carpentry work, our board chair apparently has a reputation for being exceedingly quick and fast and help get us new benches up at Crane in kind of record fashion. So there's a couple of pictures. Scott, if you could scroll down, just showing some of that. The chair hid from the camera pretty well, but we could see some of the work there. These are benches that were damaged during the campfire, and they're now replaced, and we're getting the trail back up to speed and some new interpretive signs. So it's gonna be a neat experience when it's ready. Sophia has a long list of volunteers. A lot of these are tied in with this neighbor to neighbor effort. So we're going to have a bunch of those over this next year. You'll see these on a regular basis, and the interest seems to be high for people to do things in the community. And actually, Chris and I were talking about doing a volunteer. Oh, there he is. About doing a volunteer day. Chris, I was just talking about you. About looking at some volunteer day efforts here coming up. So. Sure. Oh, I was just gonna say, we just mentioned in passing, talking about volunteer days up here on the course to do some work with.
Yes, we did.
neighbor
In
to
fact, I
neighbor
just
thing.
ran into Jake over here at
Good.
we were both getting dinner.
Matching some plans.
Yeah. We have a lot of, obviously with 40 acres fire abatement, and it's or weed abatement, and there's areas of the course that are not playable because of that. And it's difficult to get equipment in there, and because of the use of public funds and so forth to transfer to us, it's outside of that. If you can do it through a grant like Neighbor to Neighbor, we can do a volunteer day through that and have people come out and help with equipment and get that taken care of. We've had the Hansky goats come out and do it too. Yeah. In fact, they took care of about 3 fairways for us where they can access it. It's landlocked in some places, so they can't get the goats in there. But if it's right on a road, it's easy to get to. So
Yeah. Look forward to talking to you about it, Chris.
Same here, Dan. Appreciate it.
Mark, do you want to give us a quick update on some maintenance and some of the work you guys have been doing? We do have some nice pictures on there.
I don't do I have stage fright. Looking at more people just make me, I'm bad enough as it is. I know. But I wanted to first thank Chris. I admire his passion for this facility and for this. I was the previous golf course superintendent here. I worked here for years and had lunch in this room for a lot of years. And so I appreciate your passion for this place, because I don't know if anyone plays golf. I had an immense passion for this golf course at one time. I was sunrise to sunset many days. So I appreciate it being passed on as your stewardship of it. No, I appreciate you. The pool. I've been able to foster a lot of good relationships since the campfire, and I took the pump down there and I'm picking it back up tomorrow. So you usually can't get a pump rebuilt that quick. I think I know just about every contractor in business in Butte County in the last 5 years, and it pays off. excuse me, I don't do good at public speaking. You guys know that every time. It's not me. I'm good at, I envy Scott on that. He's great at it. All the facilities and everything where they have all these events, the maintenance is the reason that they're safe and clean, and we can have those events in a very safe environment. But Billy Park is everything's looking great. I don't really know how to elaborate. There's pictures. We've done a lot of cleaning up of the trees. You get into and I'll admit it, I had it too. You get into that tunnel vision of kind of looking at everything, and then Dan and I were out there, and all of a sudden you start looking up. And I kind of haven't wanted to look up that much lately in the last 5 years, because every time I do, there's another dead tree. But there was a lot of limbs that needed to get cleaned up, and so we took some time, and through them, all these things were part of. Christy was part of that for getting the grant through the US, was it USDA? And for the equipment, so we could take care of tree work for fire abatement and keep all the ladder fuels off the ground. And so we've and it really looks nice. It really does. It really cleaned it up a lot. And it's amazing how you I think it's like anything, you see it a certain way for so many years, you just become used to it, and then you clean it up and you're like, oh my God, it looks Billy Park looks like a whole new park. It's amazing just getting those cleaned up. And what's nice about that, as I made a point of, we don't throw anything, we chip it and put it right back right back on the ground for landscape. So there's nothing being burned, nothing being thrown away. That's one thing. We have the chipper. We don't burn hardly anything anymore. We chip it. Everything is chipped and put back into the ground. So I'm proud of that. The baseball field is looking great. Paradise Lake is funny that Scott mentioned the porta potties, because there's a picture where those are old porta potties and we had to redo the flooring on them. They were falling through. But as you can see, now they're not. So they are well used. We get a lot of usage up there. They're being set there and feet are moving a lot to wear that out. So we've had to, so they rebuilt, we did all the floorings in those, and it just, all the parks right now, it's at Aquatic Park today, and Aquatic Park is a beautiful park. I mean, just that when the fountain's going and it's green and it's quiet, it is. We have got some beautiful parks. We really do. And I encourage people to get out and just take a minute and take a breath. It's even good for me to do at times, because I usually work like 10 hours. I don't stop. I just don't stop. And every once in a while, I'll just stop at Aquatic Park and just sit on a bench. And it's just like, and you just realize why you're working 10 hours a day and nonstop. And it pays off when you have those moments to just really reflect on it and go, yeah, this is why we do this. This is why we do it. And so everyone can have those parks to go to and enjoy, and other people can have those moments. And we can have all those neighbor to neighbor events and clean, and parks that are clean and well kept, and everyone feels safe, and the restrooms are clean. And we take that for granted when it's done all the time. And it's because you just, and I'm proud of our staff. We have a hardworking staff that takes pride in our district, in all of our facilities. I look forward to being able to come up here and clean the restrooms at Magalia Park, just like we do down there. I know that day is going to come. I look forward to that. I really do. Like I was saying, I have a little bit of passion for up here in Magalia. Sitting in this room many times having lunch, many years, and I love this. That's pretty neat, and that's really cool. I remember that little area was a little coffee area, and yeah. So, but I really want to say that I appreciate your passion, and a lot of you have the passion for your neighborhood. But Chris, when you can just feel it when you speak, that it's real, and I appreciate that. I really do, because I had that passion for this place for decades. I loved it. I just all I wanted to do was be at the golf course. And so I appreciate that it's passed on, and you've picked that up, and you show that, and it shows when you speak, and in what you do, not just what your words are, but what you do. Anyone can talk. Words are easy. It's when you show it and the work you do and we look around. Yeah, you make it happen. And I appreciate that. And I think everyone sitting here does too. And that's enough for me unless you have questions.
Mark, I just want, we had a meeting last week with our whole crew, just our regular meeting. It was nice to sit out at Paradise Lake. It was nice to see how much work our crew does on all our facilities. There's a lot of pride in it. So, I want to extend that thanks to you and the crew. They do a great job. It's pretty limited how the numbers that we have, but it's pretty exciting to see what you guys accomplish with good attitude. So thank you.
Thank you.
If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them on the district report. That's all we wanted to cover. Oh, I was going to mention one other thing. We did have a wildfire risk reduction meeting last week, a couple weeks ago. It's one of a series that's going to continue, is looking at more of the modeling. We'll have more to come, but we've been having good turnout. So on the order of 50 or 60 folks they're good questions. They seem informed. And what we hear a lot from folks is more people need to know about it so they can find out about it. So that's more to come on that. But I think we're on a good track with that and getting information out about how it can protect the community. Happy to answer any questions from the board.
Any other public comment?
Yeah, I was also at the Neighbor to Neighbor Bash for 4 hours, and although Scott did not introduce me to his lovely family, it was very worth my time. I met a couple that had recently moved into my neighborhood whose house I bike past all the time, and I met a lot of people there that I knew but wouldn't expect to see there, and had the opportunity to catch up with a lot of them. So I told Kristen it was very worthwhile. One of the things I noticed when I was there is that a lot of the conifer trees have spike tops where they're like 90% green and then the very top has no foliage. So I don't know what the district is planning to do about that, but I just did want to bring it to everyone's attention. And when I'm looking at the upcoming events in the district report, I didn't notice the Butte Canyon cleanup that's coming up on October 5th. And I know that the district has cooperated with associations down there in the past. And I just wanted to know if there'd be like vans or anybody else or a volunteer project to help the people down in the canyon at the end of the season, after everyone's been there all summer, clean up the creek and make it appropriate for everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure why I didn't make it on here. I think we've been participating up or down there, at least 3 years in a row, and helping with either some transportation equipment. We've had a contingent there. Even Christy and I have been down there a couple of times to help out, take care of the creek, bring our tools and so forth. So it's been a very good event. I'm pretty sure it just didn't make it on the list here, but I'm sure that we'll have a presence there for sure.
Yeah, we are. Sophia's doing it.
Yeah. Do you know the date? Is it on October 5th? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
That brings us to board comment. No.
Well, I did attend the Butte County Board of Supervisors meeting this last Tuesday, and with regard to the open position, they decided to table it. So for those interested, Mr. Stonebreaker, and anybody else, I'm not sure if it's the next meeting or the first meeting in October. I didn't get the specifics on that, but they should address it at that point. On one other note, in representing Paradise Animal Shelter Helpers, we did have a groundbreaking for the expanded shelter on the 28th of last month. And although the shelter doesn't serve the upper ridge, ASH as an organization does serve the entire ridge. And I just wanted to go over a couple programs. There's a Sarah Fund where anybody who is 62, I don't know if anybody here qualifies, and if the animal at the shelter is over 8 years old, all fees are waived for the adoption, and you get like a $500 credit for animal or veterinary care throughout each year, which does, and it does not include dental because that can go into thousands right away. But if you're interested in adopting an elderly pet, then the fees are waived and a certain amount of vet care is taken care of the life of the animal. Another program we have is the hardship. Anybody on the ridge who has some economic challenges and something happens to their pet, mostly their dogs or cats, if it's a broken leg, it gets into a fight, whatever, or just a bad tear, we have a program which will for those in economic stresses, we can pay for up to $500 per procedure every year for a hardship case. So, and that goes for everybody on the ridge. So if you know somebody who's in need of animal care and it doesn't have the funds to cover it, Ash is there for you.
Who's the vet?
Good question, because there's a shortage of vets on the ridge, as you probably know. Yeah, with regard to the spay and neuter program, most vets are like 6 to 8 weeks out. We do, one of our board members, in fact, our board president is a retired veterinarian, and I don't want to put any more work on him, but he does sometimes do work on the side. He's still licensed. But we make reservations for, what is it, Look Ahead down in Butte Valley and Animal Hospital on the Ridge that we generally do. But again, they're far out. They're like a very good mechanic. You know, you can't get your car in because there's a shortage, but we do what we can. Money's not the issue. It's just the amount of veterinarians on the ridge. But those are the programs, and you can find more information with regard to PASH at pashcares.org. So.
Now?
Okay, board comments. Since the last time we met as a board, which was on August the 14th, in my capacity as being a board member on the state California Association of Recreation and Park Districts, we had a state board meeting by Zoom on August the 21st. There wasn't a lot covered by our state board, but we were following the efforts of the state legislature and what's been sent on to the governor for signature or veto and that type of thing. So that was very enlightening discussion. And I can't really remember all the bills that we were exposed to, but it's kind of a scary proposition sometimes what gets out of the legislature and it gets sent to the governor. But stay tuned. He's got till the end of this month, I believe, to act on all these myriad bills. Also, it was my pleasure to attend the Neighbor to Neighbor kickoff event at Billy Park, and I saw several of our citizens there. I was really pleased to see with the staff and the volunteers that were there, how they interact with one another. It's exciting, and I'm sure we're going to have more of these types of events to come throughout the next couple of years. So congratulations to everybody on that. I think we already reported on the finance committee meeting that occurred on September the 3rd. Yesterday, Board Director Bellafay and myself, we represented the town of Paradise along with our district manager, and we met as liaison committee representatives for PRPD with the town of Paradise and 2 other town council members and their town manager. And it was a very good discussion. It was a good, well-structured agenda. We basically, the 2 agencies through their district managers and town manager updated each other on what's going on, town projects as well as our own projects, and how we can better coordinate together on certain things. So it's very encouraging to see that reestablished again, because we used to do that years ago when I was a staff member for the town of Paradise, and that kind of fell by the wayside for a while, particularly since the Camp Fire. But now we're back on track, and I think that's good. I would encourage the the county to do something similar for citizens up here too with us. And I don't know, maybe that's a discussion someday with our supervisor, Doug Teeter. I don't know, but that's just my comment. But anyway, it was a good, very positive exchange of information and coordination. And I'm glad to see that we're back on track, that we're meeting regularly. I think our next meeting is going to be in December. And so if Mary and I attend that, we'll have things to report to the board during our December meeting. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thanks, Al. Well, at this point, I'm going to adjourn the meeting till our next regular meeting on October 9th at 6 p.m. at Terry Ash. Thanks for coming.